Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Moines County Board of Supervisors, August 24th, 2021. Are there any changes to the tentative agenda?
I have none.
Agenda. Department heads and elected officials. Sherry Johnson, Des Moines County.
Whoops.
Sarah.
We switched
Sarah,
spots.
you're okay. But I'm talking to Sarah, right? Okay. Sarah Doty, First Deputy Auditor's Office.
Staying busy. I don't have anything new to report. Terry, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna let you know, because they've been asking, we are up to 4 candidates now for the city of Burlington, city council. When we reach 6, or well, when we reach 7, that will trigger a, primary. So, anyway, they have until Thursday at 5 p.m. to file papers. And we've had, for the other cities, because their filing period started on Monday, we've had Danville Mayor, somebody file papers for the Danville Mayor and for West Burlington Mayor position, so.
Can you share those names with us, or is it?
Yes,
the same?
yes, I can. For Danville, it's Jerry Strauss. And for West Burlington, it's Ron Teeter.
That's for mayor.
Uh-huh.
What was that last name?
For West Burlington Mayor Teeter, T-E-A-T-E-R.
Who do
And
we
then-
have? Oh, go ahead.
And the city council candidates are John Billups, Antonio Bailey, Christopher Repke, and Terry Schnack, S-C-H-N-A-C-K. So those are the candidates that have filed so far.
Thank you, Terry.
Welcome.
Thanks, Sarah.
You're
If I'd
welcome.
known you're gonna be there, I would've planned to embarrass you a little bit, but
Thanks.
I-
Appreciate that.
I'm real good off the cuff. Lisa Schaefer, Des Moines County Attorney.
Staying busy. We just had our trial setting meeting, so we're gonna be busy with trials next week. Just a couple things we're dealing with in our office. We learned our victim witness grant that we've had for years through VOCA has been reduced by about $2,500 this year, as in this year. And we anticipate that it will continue to be reduced. It's a federally funded grant, and they just have not appropriated the funds that they did before, so everyone's are being reduced.
They've appropriated
With
money for
that,
everything else.
Huh?
They've appropriated money for everything else. They can't come up with.
and then we also learned that the CPC in Muscatine, that's the Child Protection Center where we send all of our children, depending on the nature of it, usually under the age of 16, all children to, whether it's sex abuse, child abuse, or just witness to a crime, we send all of them to the CPC to be interviewed for forensic interviews. We've been working with the Muscatine CPC since 2010, I think, 2011, for years. They lost their IDPH grant, and so, which covered all of their costs for travel, testifying, depositions. Now they they're trying to stay afloat. Apparently, there's a new CPC in Scott County up in Davenport that actually got the grant. They don't wanna have too many people, too close together, all getting money, so Scott County got the grant. So because of that, Mississippi Valley is now wanting to charge witness fees, travel expenses, et cetera, for their staff. So I've met with, Brett from the sheriff's office, as well as the major from the PD to figure out what we're gonna do next. I'm a little uncomfortable for taxpayers who are paying for that IDPH grant anyway, for us to then ask the county taxpayers to pay additionally for those witness fees. So we are exploring what other CPCs we could use in lieu of Mississippi Valley, which we're very sorry to do. They're a great group of people to work with. They bend over backwards for us, but it's just one of those unfortunate things where they're the victim of regionalization. And So we're trying to figure out how best to make sure that we're getting our needs met, but also keep the costs as low as possible. So we're exploring that. Other than that, we're just staying busy and still playing COVID catch-up.
We've got a week left.
Hmm.
Till the end of September is your first cutoff.
No, we're good now until January 31st. We're making some headway on the way, and this is for all of our waiver cases. Our new demands continue to be on the regular timelines that they've always been on. We still have about 85 waiver cases that were pre-COVID. But now that they're actually rising to the top, attorneys and defendants are now deciding, okay, I need to do something with this. I think we just cleared out 10 or 12 of them just this month. So we're hoping that will continue to happen as they rise to the top, they can actually get dealt with. So we're hoping not to have too many issues. The only scheduling concerns we have are, we have a homicide scheduled for September 28th. And then if we have demands that are set for that date, we have to figure out how we're gonna do two things at once. Because there's not a lot of time left for that, because the homicide, both homicides have to go by January 30th, because they were both pre-COVID. The one scheduled for the 28th of September is from October of 19, so we would really like to get that young man on his way, whichever way that may be. He's been in jail since October 12th, I think, of 2019. Thanks. It's a long time. But if we have our way, it's just like the first installment, so,
I just got that, sorry. How's he paying off this time? Incrementally.
Judge Dow used to use the phrase, I think it was Judge Dow, when he sentenced someone to life imprisonment, he goes, we don't have the death penalty in Iowa, we just take your life one day at a time. So, but yeah, it's a murder case, he is looking at life in prison, so, he would get credit for any time served in the offense. Not that it matters when you're serving life, but, he would get credit for all time previously served. But we would like to get that case done and resolved. I know Doug would like to get him out of the jail, just to open up some space. But that's really the only big scheduling concern we have at this point is that one.
Thanks, Lisa. Colin Gerst, IT.
Just keeping busy like always, juggling a couple larger projects right now, but nothing new to report.
Jared Lasser, land use.
Morning. Let's see, we have a subdivision out for review. It might be a little while before it comes to you, since we'll still need to go through it's in a 2-mile area of one of the cities, and that hasn't been set yet. That'll be the first meeting in September. So to follow our normal process, we'll follow up on that. The county will approve after the city, so that might not see that right away, but it'll be coming here eventually. Just a minor subdivision. Apart from that, we have the floodplain advisory board meeting this afternoon. Just a last review of the new revised ordinance for the maps that become effective in October. So assuming nobody has any issues with that, you can expect to see that come to the board here within the next few weeks. So apart from that, we do have a work session following up on a matter we had discussed at a previous work session. I think it was a month or two ago. So apart from that, I don't have anything else.
Thanks, Jared. Chris Lee, Conservation.
Good morning. Just kind of routine for us. I will note that we got our Hiker Park series scheduled for the fall. For this round, we are partnering with Moines County. They'll be bringing folks down here and we'll be going up there. And so we'll have parks to be hiked both in Des Moines and Moines County. So kind of spread our wings, exploring the area a little bit wider. In the future, we hope to partner with some of the other adjacent counties as well. We know a lot of folks like to go out and check out other places, and so kind of giving them that opportunity to join us and do that. So other than that, we did schedule our school field trips and stuff for the fall. The way that always works is there's a particular day that we open that up, we open up our schedule to take those requests. Generally, it's just a nonstop telethon. The phone just never stops ringing at Starscape, and they'll book up their entire fall in a single day, and which they did again. But it wasn't quite as robust this year. I think a lot of schools are still kind of, dipping their toe in the water as far as, what travel they're gonna be allowed to do, willing to do, and that kind of stuff, in the face of COVID and everything. So, not quite a mad rush like it has been in previous years, but it's still gonna keep our education staff pretty busy. So, looking forward to getting that going again and kind of resuming some semblance of normalcy and completing field trip programs and stuff out of the nature center. Other than that, the staff's out doing some trail work at Starscape today and just kind of going around and just trying to catch up on things. Campgrounds are winding down a little bit. We weren't full this last weekend. August, we usually see a little bit of a dip. There's just a lot of things going on. There's the state fair and then Sweet Corn Festival and all the other festivals kind of going along, and then everybody kind of getting back home and trying to get back into the swing of school and stuff like that. So we're used to seeing a little dip like this. And then plans are underway for our big Halloween event that we'll have up at Big Hollow that second Saturday in October. So looking forward to that. We are that same weekend also going to have a prescribed fire workshop. It'll be that Sunday, which is the 10th, I believe, of October, and invite folks out to learn about prescribed burning and how we do that and stuff. And anybody that attends that can join our volunteer list to help us do burns in the future if they want. So that's kind of what we're going on. Looking forward to.
When's that gonna be?
Tomorrow. That'll be October 10th, I believe, is that Sunday. It'll be in the afternoon, so 1 till 5 p.m. It'll be up at our shops at Big Hollow. We did one of these 2 years ago, I think, maybe 3. And it's, basically just kind of introduces prescribed fire, some of the tools and methods you do for doing that. Anybody that's got land that has conservation reserve program acres on it, oftentimes they're required to do what's called contract management. So halfway through the contract, they have to burn or spray or disc some of it. And from a management perspective, burning is by far the best thing you can do. And so folks can kind of come and learn how to do that and meet other folks that are wanting to get into it. When I worked down in Missouri, they did this kind of landowner cooperatives where a bunch of landowners would get together and they'd help each other burn. And so this is kind of the first step in maybe starting some of that coalition up so that folks can get more fire put on the ground, because it certainly is a very valuable habitat management tool.
What's the best time or the optimal time for burning season?
Generally spring and fall. So we do a lot of our forest burns in the fall, right after the leaves come down. And then we do some of our native grass burning in the fall. Kind of depends what your objectives are. If you're wanting to promote heavier grasses, burning in the fall is better. If you're wanting to promote some of the wildflowers, burning in the spring and into early summer is the best time to do that, depending on what your existing cover is. So if you're wanting to get rid of trees, springtime, spring or fall, depending on your timing. If you can catch it when, like, the trees that are coming up in your prairies still have leaves on them, and you can hit them with fire, then you'll take away their opportunity to put those reserves down in the roots and reset it back. And so that's often what we're trying to do in our timbers, is we're trying to burn out honeysuckle. And so that stuff stays green way into the fall. Everything else will have been brown and dormant. That stuff will start growing, and so we try to torch it then. And
Don't show off, man. You think we really know that stuff, don't you?
we kind of live for this stuff.
I appreciate the info. Thanks, man.
Chris, I heard that, that ornamental grass that got the grows tall, got them. They said that's one of the top 10 invasive weeds in the country. I would never guess that.
It would surprise you the number of ornamental things.
Yeah.
That, like, oh, it's pretty, and then it just.
And the government's trying to put a ban on greenhouses and places selling that stuff.
Yeah, there's been some of that stuff that's just, that's taken off. So, and that's where, paying attention a little bit to what the natural history and the ecology of a plant that you're gonna put in your yard really is, because, plants can disperse pretty easy, and folks should really be cognizant of that. just because it's a pretty thing doesn't mean that it's the best thing to put in your yard that's gonna, take over somebody's farm or timber.
Thanks, Chris. Janelle Nally Longquist, Moines County Treasurer.
Good morning. I'm sure as you're all aware, the property tax statements were mailed out last Friday.
I'm aware.
Yeah. So if you haven't gotten them, you will, soon. And thanks to Rodney and Gage for getting that truckload down to the post office bright and early, Friday morning. And the staff did an awesome job at getting all that done in a timely manner. But the other thing I'll mention is DOT, Iowa DOT came in this morning at 8:30 with all their boxes, his boxes, to start that printer installation. I would imagine by now he's going on it, so. We might have a little delay if somebody comes in the next couple of hours, but it shouldn't be long. They're pretty diligent about getting that up and going. So that's all I have.
Everybody might not know that you've got 30,000 of those property tax statements to get out. You do it all in-house.
Yep, all in-house.
Postage, sticking them in envelopes.
Printing them,
Then Rodney loads a pickup, the bed
Yeah.
of the pickup out. Wow. Anyway, thank you.
Well, I think my taxes ought to pay for a couple of them loads.
Nobody's got to pick up the postage.
Did your ears burn when everybody's getting these in the mail?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's always, I expect it. So.
Yeah.
Phone started ringing hot and heavy constant at probably 11 a.m. yesterday. And
Yeah.
they'll go today, so. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I spoke to a group last Friday. I told them why I started off is, they started with the bad news, and I said, your property tax statements. I said, we'll hit your mailboxes next week. To everybody around. I said, but the good news is, I said, the county levy rate has gone down 20% over the last 11 years. It's gone from 875 to 702. That's the lowest levy rate in 20 years. So that seemed to smooth them out a little bit.
I'll take a pound on that with you.
Kevin Glendenning, Des Moines County Sheriff.
Good morning. Things are going well at the Sheriff's Office. A little bit of public awareness. We've had a subject that we had identified about a week or two ago that was going around and just being overly persuasive about asking for money. He was found in odd places of people's properties around backyards and outbuildings and whatnot. Didn't necessarily have any charges on him, but we had identified him, but we couldn't locate him. He was located a couple days ago, and in that he was attempting a burglary. So he was arrested for that, for attempted burglary and a couple other charges. But since then, had some reports come in just through putting stuff out through social media of change jars and money disappearing, things that they hadn't reported, and now that they were. So just be aware that now we're starting to get a influx of where the subject may have entered their house or somebody else entered a residence and taken items. So if you have something like that that shows up, we'd love a call back. We'll take a report and we'll add that in part of our investigation. So just be aware that those things do happen, unfortunately. If somebody comes around and you feel intimidated about donating or giving money, go inside, secure your house, give us a call. We'll come out and deal with it. Besides that, everything's well. The jail population, we're at 77, 4 out of county. And most importantly, I've got our 2 newest deputies with me here today. This is Xander Schweiss and John Gates. In a time of agencies are very struggling with hiring really good quality candidates, we're really excited about these 2. They'll start the academy on Monday. They'll be gone for about 4 months, and then they'll do a 4-month field training program where they'll be with our field training officers. So very excited about the service they're going to bring to Des Moines County in the future, and we're going to get them going. So just wanted to introduce them to the board, to the public.
Welcome aboard, gentlemen. Thank you.
And they have other things to do, so I'm going to excuse them from the meeting. I told them they didn't have to sit through the rest. So.
They may class the joint up,
Yes,
Kevin.
yes.
Take care. Brian Carter, Des Moines County Secretary of Roads.
Good morning. Projects are still moving, Flint Bottom's moving along, still got a while ahead of it. Still got some seeding to do on 99 and a little bit of riprap, but otherwise that project's, in good condition. And geode, I would expect well, I don't really have an expectation because a lot of it depends on things in Henry County, but they are moving along in Henry County, so, so hopefully we'll see the geode project maybe start up in the next couple weeks. It'll probably be a spur of the moment thing. We'll do it, we'll send a press release out, but you may hear about it getting started before you hear it from me, just especially if the contractor jumps straight from their project to ours, which may or may not happen. So, other than that, plenty of stuff going on. We are out for bid. I should have mentioned this last week. We are out for bid for that dirt road upgrade that we had the session on a month ago, 2 months ago. We've had a couple sessions on it. It's nothing new. So that is out for bid. Other than that, nothing else to go with. So if you guys have any questions?
No, mark that down, that's the shortest thing he's ever given.
I left you a big paragraph even.
Well,
How come Brian always gets the big paragraph?
Doesn't take long to figure that out.
I start to question things when Shane's asking about fire. So clutch. So I'm
No,
just
really,
gonna
be
keep
careful.
quiet and be calm, so.
I don't have any questions.
No, that's it, so thanks, be safe too, buses are going again, and it is very dry, we haven't had a lot of moisture, well, actually, depending where you're at, we haven't had a lot of moisture. So, pay attention for school buses stopping in places they haven't been for a couple months, so.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Krista Fogelmiller, Public Health.
Good morning. We continue to be busy in public health. Our current positive COVID rate in the last 7 days is 11% with 76 cases. We've given 40,000 vaccines in our county for a percentage of 40.5%. We are continuing with various clinics, reaching out to the schools and industries. Also did a drive-through clinic last week at the auditorium. Want to thank Rodney and his staff for all the work they did. They helped get the equipment down there, help us get everything set up, and then afterwards, on the weekend, picked up that stuff. So thank you so much. They had the Pfizer vaccine received FDA approval, and it's FDA approved for 16 and older. And we've also had the additional third doses that are now being given to immunocompromised people. So this is for anyone who has, it could be someone with active cancer treatments, on high prednisone. There's a complete list on the CDC website if anyone's looking to see if they might qualify. So if they have questions, they can always call our health department. We also had a Board of Health meeting last week, and they are moving forward with the Board of Health website, as well as we had the annual report from Lee County, does the First Five program here in our community, so they gave their annual report as well.
Thank you, Krista. Rodney Wiesner, Maintenance.
Good morning. We're plenty busy with a lot of stuff going on. The jail generator did not get started up on Friday. There was some scheduling with Kohler, the generator manufacturer, with some schedules that they have. So it hasn't been scheduled yet, so we're trying to get, everything's ready to go. We're just waiting for that startup. So that's one of those things they need to be there with Reliant. So trying to get everybody's schedules lined up and get there and get it done. It's been kind of hectic, but I'm still working on that. We do have a bid opportunity out there for the front steps, so if anybody's interested in that, I think go to the county website and find that under the bid opportunities. I'd also like to introduce everybody as a new hire, Alex Schnedler, started yesterday, so we're glad to have him. Kind of took him around and showed him most of the places yesterday. Didn't quite get to everywhere, but we're glad to have him and have another person here. Start teaching him all the things that we do.
Welcome aboard, Alex.
Thank you. That's all I have, thank you.
Angie Vaughn, Safety.
Good morning. I really don't have anything new, just keeping busy, but nothing major to report, so.
Thank you. Ken Hyman, Community Services.
Good morning. We have 1 week left of August, so I've been sending out emails to case managers for funding requests that are ending August 31st, just reminding them, hey, get me your funding requests and your paperwork in, things like that. We're also getting signed contracts back this time of year, and just keeping busy.
I think they're having a session at ISAC on justice involved.
Yeah. Later in the week, yeah.
Friday.
On Friday, yeah.
There are a number of law enforcement officers coming from this area just for that day even, so, the region offered to pay for it and everything, and I think that'll be a good session.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ted's gonna go from my office too.
Yeah. Good. Thank you, Ken. Did I miss anybody? Okay. Correspondence, I have none.
I have none.
Have none. We have payroll claims reimbursements in the amount of $380.
Move to approve.
Second.
Sarah?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We have minutes for the regular meeting of August 17th, 2021.
Second.
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. It's going to be a shorter meeting, as I remember it sometime. Any other business?
I have none.
I have none. Future agenda items?
Maybe next week, or whenever, put me on the agenda to present our annual report.
We'll
I promise not to be like Brian's.
I say put him at the end so I
It's a
can
free
walk out.
country, everybody can walk out at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna hold you to that.
We just have, Terry will have to check and see if she's got any work session scheduled, but I'm not
Do you
aware.
want it as a work session, or you want it actually on the agenda?
Just put it on the agenda, just.
Okay.
I think it's been on the agenda
Okay.
before.
Yeah.
Okay, shouldn't be a problem. Any other future agenda items? Committee reports.
Well, Krista covered me on the public health, and I appreciate that, Krista. If there isn't anything that you missed that I know. And I had a rough meeting, and we have one of our gentlemen that's going to retire, so they're gonna be looking for another
Sanitarian?
sanitarian, a sanitarian, licensed sanitarian to replace it. We've got 4 on board, but one of them's gonna retire, so we'll bring that back up to 4. We have 5. So, anybody out there knows of anybody looking for a job, apply for it. And we're not gonna lose ours here, we're keeping great care, so,
Good, he does a good job.
yes, he does a good job for the Moines County. That's all I had there.
Thank you, Jim.
I've got nothing.
As do I. Public input. If anybody from the public would like to address the board, you may email the Board of Supervisors at board@dmcounty.com. That's BOARD@dmcounty.com. Or you may call 319-753-8203, extension 4. That's 319-753-8203, extension 4. We'll give you a couple minutes to initiate that email or call. In the meantime, does anybody in attendance have any comments? It's a quiet crowd. Well, I've got a question. You look familiar.
Yes, hello, former Hawkeye reporter. I'm just doing some freelancing right now and helping out the Beacon.
Okay.
So kind of unofficial, just picking up some assignments here and there, helping them out. So yeah, good to see everybody again. It's been a while.
Michelle, I think it's been a couple years since I've seen you.
Yeah, Libby.
Libby.
Sorry, yeah, we do have a Michelle at the Hawkeye. But yeah, no, I left the Hawkeye in June 2019, so it has been a while. Hard to believe, but still in the area.
Do you keep in contact with any of, like that Michael Anderson that used to?
He was just before my time, actually.
He was?
Yep.
Okay.
But remember Tanner who used to cover the
Yeah.
meetings? Yeah, we are still in a group chat
Still
with
in a
him.
group
and-
chat with him, are you?
Yeah, he lives in Pittsburgh now.
Pittsburgh.
Anderson reached out to me not too long ago. He's doing some reporting for some magazine or
Who's
something
that?
too, freelance.
Tanner?
Yeah, he's in Des Moines, that area.
Anyways, it's good to see you.
Yeah, you too, you too.
He didn't say it was good to see me or Jim. He just said it was.
I see you guys
Yeah.
every week.
Everybody looks the same here, except for you, Shane, you're the new addition, so.
Well, you know.
Shane's gonna
Don't say it,
get a
Jimmy.
little grayer right here.
Don't do it, Jimmy.
It's been a long 2 years.
Okay, it doesn't look like anybody's gonna call in, so with an aye, we're adjourned.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you all. You have a great day.
Have a
Kim?
neighbor sometime in the last
Trent Henkelbeck, with the County Attorney's Office regarding a subdivision roadway issue that we previously discussed in one of these. So whoever wants the floor out there.
I'll just
can
give
have
a
it.
quick background for us. Probably about, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks ago, maybe, we had that work session about the Roth subdivision and the Roth Road issue, and kind of talked about some different paths moving forward. And afterwards, we started communicating with Trent about some communication and getting a letter over there to talk about it. And then he kind of suggested another option that we hadn't discussed at that time, where essentially, and he'll go through it in more detail, he's drafted a letter now, but essentially where what our path before was basically just gonna not really do anything, kind of let them just continue to develop along there, but he kind of came up with an option where essentially we just wouldn't allow permits along this in the future unless they upgrade the roadway. So instead of forcing them to make the upgrades, we just won't allow a permit unless they make the upgrade. So I'll let him go through and kind of talk about this idea that he came up with in the letter that he's drafted here. So turn it over to him.
Sure, so if you look at the letter, it kind of walks through, not only for us, but also for the property owners, so they kind of have the history of what happened. So basically, 2006, the estate of John and Lily Roth wanted to subdivide and really needed to subdivide in order to distribute equally amongst beneficiaries. So that's how this subdivision came to be. At the time, they were one of the very first subdivisions after the regulations on subdivisions had came into place. So if you look just to the east, a block to the east and 2 blocks to the east of this particular subdivision, there's subdivisions with roadways that are non-conforming but are in fact grandfathered in because they were subdivided prior. So, and at the time they started this, they did not, it seems that they did not anticipate making the roadway to match what should have been. And so when it was brought to the supervisors in 2006, what they said is, okay, we'll approve this plat as is with the caveat, and I can read it, I've paraphrased it in here, essentially saying that the first person to develop, and it states any type of development, it goes through here. So, however, any future development of the property for residential, commercial, or industrial purposes requires conformance to a roadway improvement standard. So then the first property that was sold and then developed out of there happened, I believe in 2010. Cameroons purchased and built a home on property that the only facing road is it
Glenmark.
Glenmark, thank you, Glenmark Road. So it's not even on this would-be lane. And that was given a permit without.
That actually was one where it did not get a permit initially because it was one where we had no record of it on file, so we assume it must have been built without the knowledge of our department at the time.
So however it happened, it was built. So that's probably the one, as I read it, that should have triggered this provision where the lane needed to be upgraded. And then again in 2017, another one was built at the intersection of Glenmark and what I'm calling J&L Lane. And that one, again, they just let it be built, and then again in 2018. And then when you went to look at the road and the home that was built, it became pretty obvious that that road was non-conforming. Is that correct statement?
Yeah, that was the first one after Zach and I had taken over with land use administration. The previous one had been approved by Jeff Hannon 2 years prior.
So then in going to talk to property owners, say, hey, this is non-conforming, needs to become non-conforming. So the developer said, well, it was always intended that whoever purchased the lot would have to pay to put in the road. So think this through, you purchase a lot in the country for 20, 30,000, who knows, to build a house on. Now you've got to put in this $100,000 road. Well, you're probably not gonna buy that lot if you know.
Surprise, surprise.
Yes, yes. So what I'm suggesting is we, not permit any new construction because it's non-conforming, so we can do that. And then we have an ordinance, simply putting that ordinance back in the record so that any new purchasers, because the rest of this land that's non-developed is still owned by the original
Subdivider, yeah.
subdivider. So therefore, the next person to buy is, they know. And then at that point, they can decide whether they want to develop that road or not. But at least this way, we only have the two original buildings on that lane, which would have been grandfathered in long, many years ago.
And those would have been fine initially since it's only two, because
Only two,
our
yeah.
trigger is 3.
Yeah. So, and then the one that's on the corner of Glenmark and the one right next to it. Because the problem becomes, especially if there's a fire down that road, I don't think we have a rig small enough. They'll be calling like Danville or one of our country fire departments to get an engine in there. I mean, I don't think Burlington has an engine small enough to get back there. So, I mean, it's a risk for whether it's law enforcement, whether it's medical, whether it's, but if there's a fire back there, that's a big problem. So this is my recommendation, that we go ahead and pass an ordinance, placing that ordinance that was passed December 06, 2005, in their record with the recorder's office, so it's at the top of their abstract when they get their abstract done. Therefore, any new buyers would be on notice. And I think that affects what really needs to happen.
Well, this is, when we talked about this before, and didn't have any clear paths, so this is sort of a informative work session. So you're just sort of letting us know what your recommendation is.
Yes.
And I hope to find out whether we do not have any objections to that. This way I understand how this works.
Yes, and then I'd also like to ask the recorder's office, and we have time to talk to them to see what exactly they need to make sure that it gets in their records, so we make sure we get that.
Right.
Right,
Then when the ordinance is finally ready, then it'll have to go through a public hearing
Okay.
and this board. Would that be correct, Derek?
You're talking about the subdivision ordinance?
We're talking about a resolution.
I think he said ordinance, but I think he meant
It
resolution.
doesn't take a public hearing, but a resolution has to go through the board.
Yes.
Alright.
Yeah, I think he said ordinance, but I think if you read the letter, it says resolution. I think that's what he meant to say.
Okay.
We got several ordinances coming, so.
Definitely an
Several
ordinance
hanging
on
out
the
there.
wall.
I
Want to see where the county's not gonna have any liability in the long run.
Yeah, no, I have no
Well,
objection.
That takes us out of the liability issue on that, your recommendation.
Right, that's kind of what I'm saying, is we're stepping back. Look, this is a private matter, and whether it should have been, whether the Cameroons should have paid for it, whether the Ross should have paid for it, or whether it's gonna be the next person down the line, or whether the Ross are gonna pay for it, so that way they can then sell. Because any one of those lots individually, I mean, you'd have to pay them to take the lot, right, if they're gonna have to put in a road.
How many lots you'll have?
Five?
Because there's at least 2 as part of the subdivision itself, and then there are 2 on the other side of the road that already existed but have frontage along the lane.
So this would be, if you see the signature line here, just imagine that's the Mississippi River, okay? So there was originally a home here and here, where my fingers are, and that lane was okay with two properties. When they went to subdivide it is when they had to make it match. So the first lot that sold was this lot 1, all the way up here. So if you're looking at it, you don't even think, why would you even think anything about this road? Right? So, and then the other two that have been developed is lot 4 and lot 5.
There's several lots,
Yes. And so then-
potential lots.
Yes, so then there's lot 6, 7, and 8. Now, what's unique about these lots on the east, these are part of an earlier Roth subdivision. So these
Benefit by the presence of a widened road, because that's presumably where they would get access.
So yeah, so the lots that are empty is about 5, but it's really 3 that he would have that would be.
I think it's a good resolution. I have no objection to your idea at all.
Okay.
I agree, 100%.
So it's essentially a way of acknowledging that those initial permits, that should have been the triggering opportunity for enforcement of this road provision. Because it was not enforced at this time, we're gonna allow those as permitted and approved at the time, but going forward, now we're well aware of the issue, and so any further development is gonna need to take that road into account.
No, I think that's a good resolution, gives solve the problem, so, what we're gonna do, go to quarter, come up with what you gotta come up with.
And there may be a resolution, coming back to you guys.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
okay, thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you gonna handle the subdivision out on Beaverdale Road? It's got a road coming very similar to this. You gonna make them do the whole thing before let the.
Well, ordinarily, that is the process.
Reed, yeah, he's supposed to be doing it
Yeah.
up front.
It's supposed to be, yeah, this guy was supposed to be doing this,
We have,
so you're not running it through for approval?
before it goes to, zoning commission for approval of the final plat, we have to go out and make sure that he's built it.
So we're gonna make them build it before.
This Roth
Yes.
one was, evidently, we had waived that provision, so it was since they said they weren't gonna develop right away, we let them subdivide at the time.
I was here for all of it.
But
Yeah.
But the typical
If done
process
today,
is
we
you
would've-
would go
yeah.
out and make sure that it's.
It was not a muddled mess, it was much clearer than it's being laid out here,
Yeah.
that road had to be upgraded, so. But yeah, I just wondered how you're gonna handle that process.
But yeah, before the final plat.
Good enough.
It's supposed to be done.
Before we have
And we'll,
work session for another road.
yeah.
Same, it could be the same scenario.
Yeah. And that one I think is coming through then on the ordinance as it is now. And the ordinance we're putting together proposing will have, for anything not done,
Talked about a bond.
we'll have bond provision. So-
Well, that was already in the ordinance, it's just never been utilized.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right.
We're adjourned.
Oh, easy peasy.
We have a work session with the Public Health Director regarding a proposed public health facility.
Thank you.
Public health, that's public health wish list.
It is.
You can go, I'm gonna stick around because that's.
So,
I don't think Trent's gonna help. Trent's not gonna help. It's okay.
any particular way you'd like to address this, Kristen?
Yeah, sure. So we have kind of talked about a public health building. Obviously, the location that we're currently at is, COVID-19 has really highlighted some of the things that this building does not meet the needs for. You know, one of those things with COVID-19 was that we were doing immunizations. And honestly, having people come into our building to do immunizations or anything else, or even pick up tests at this point in time, one of the challenges is parking. We have very limited parking and very limited access. Sitting on the hill the way it does makes it extremely difficult for seniors or anyone who has any mobility issues to be able to access those services. Our front lobby area with COVID-19, the mitigation strategies was to maintain a 6-foot distance. If we do that in our lobby area, I think at best we can probably get 3 people in there. When we were having people come in for immunizations, we had 3 people in the lobby and the rest were standing outside in the street. And you know, obviously that was last fall, or in the winter time, January, February, March timeframe, and so that was not very comfortable. And even today, as we have people come into our building to pick up COVID tests, we are asking them to stay in their cars, because quite honestly, that waiting room, and not that we wouldn't ask them to stay in their cars or maybe not come inside if they think they're COVID positive and picking up a test, but if we had a larger waiting room, I think the exposure is going to be, or lobby area, the exposure would be much less limited. I mean, when you have that small of an area, and I don't have the exact dimensions of what it is, but when you have that small of an area, obviously there's going to be a much higher risk of transmissions. And you know, now it's COVID, down the road it may be something else. I don't think this will ever be the last infectious disease that we work with. We work with a number of them regardless. I mean, we always have, we do the mitigation for TB cases in our county, so we do have people who have latent TB or potentially current TB that we bring in and that we work with medication management and those kind of things. So we have that as well. One of the other challenges we find is public restrooms. At this point in time, you know, we have security because for some reason people think that we have things available in our public health, which we do not. We carry no medications there other than vaccines, but you know, there's always that risk and the need for security, and so we do have the doors that lock. The problem is when people need to use the restroom, they come past our security area, and that makes it difficult for them because obviously, you know, it's not a handicapped accessible bathroom for one, and the other thing is, you know, it's always that risk of safety for the staff as well, and so we ask that, you know, that we could do that revamp and make this more user-friendly for the residents of Des Moines County and make it more accessible.
You know, getting to the bathrooms, I can't believe that we've got by this long without ADA bathrooms in the county. I mean, that blew my mind when I first went over there.
I think being grandfathered in, when I had that conversation before, because we were grandfathered in, that was an concern.
Yeah.
That's a great deal problem. That building's about 90 years old. It's too small and poorly laid out. So on a hill, the pandemic just sort of highlighted the unsuitability of the parking of the building, the parking, so that's why we think that, or we're sure that this American Rescue Plan money can be used to address the pandemic, because all the things that they mentioned, that you mentioned, like vaccinations, clinics, social distancing and stuff, is not possible in that particular building. And it's not suitable for an addition or for an expansion, so yeah.
I just had, Krista, I see your wonderful list here, and I don't see anything that looks like you're trying to get pie in the sky. This has been needed for a long time, and we all know that. There's no room and stuff. My question was on two. One was the fitness room for Matter of Balance class. I had a question on that one. If you could explain it to me, and then the negative airflow room. Could you explain those to me?
Sure. I'll start with the fitness room for Matter of Balance. I think we kind of talked about, or the thought was education. So we're doing a lot of community outreach and want to do a lot of education for the community. Matter of Balance is one of those classes that we are hoping to really move forward again. Matter of Balance is for people who have mobility issues. What they found out was a lot of the calls to emergency or ambulances are people who have fallen and can't get up. And so we're looking at seniors who potentially could benefit from a class environment where we work on their balance and really work on how we can help them structure their environment to make them less at risk for falls, as well as to do strengthening. And so that education, along with our diabetes prevention program, and we're really, like I said, we want to work towards being more proactive and preventative type things through education of the community. And so, actually, there's an education room there, and I think we could probably, when I put this down, it's like, well, we could definitely put the education room and maybe do some changes to it to have like the kind of bars that people could hold on to so they can focus on working on, standing up. It's not an exercise course, it doesn't take the place of physical therapy. It's just really working with them on being able to learn how to hold objects safely so that they're not falling. So those two, the education room and the fitness room for the Matter of Balance, could probably be joined together.
Okay.
And then really reaching out to, we work through Milestones Area on Aging through the Matter of Balance class, really working with their experts on what would help us really get that room ready to go to keep moving forward on those Matter of Balance classes. And then the other one was the negative airflow room. I kind of talked to the fact that we work with our community people who are TB positive. And this was one that when we talked about what would we like to have, that would be like a wish list type of thing. So when COVID first started out, a lot of places retrofitted with negative airflow, so that prevents, it's safer as far as with the droplets and those type of things. As far as for COVID, I know a lot of the emergency rooms did that. I can't go into whole detail of how that works as far as, how the ventilation system is. The idea is that it pulls the air away instead of having that air circulating. And it's also lots of times recommended with TB. So I thought that if we're putting in a new building, this might be proactive as far as for the next situation, or, should we have needs for that. As long as we're doing this and it's not an extremely costly item, this could definitely be a infectious disease thing, and someone who would probably know more expertise on that could probably say, if this was costly or if it's even something that's doable in an environment. I know a lot of your hospitals and clinics have this.
I agree with your negative airflow room, because that takes care of your flus and everything. And it's just a simple matter when you're putting your system in. Troll Temp or Johnson Johnson got some of this stuff, and it's just put the controls in that shuts this particular room off, where you're not bringing that return air back to it. You're putting fresh return air in, but then this pumps it down different channels. And you could do that to this room here, but, well, you could on the air conditioning, but not the heat.
Anyways, I think the list is very responsible. My only just input is that, if we could have like an education room and a fitness room, if that could be part of the same room, or we could intermingle those rooms, that's one less room, just throwing that out there. So that, we can make sure that you get all those things on that list. And I would be interested in hearing more information on what the negative airflow room, how much that's gonna cost, those sort of things. I'm definitely open to hear all those things. But again, I think it's a good list.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, how many nurses do you have over there, Krista?
Currently, we have 5 nurses.
And you want 10 nurses' offices for future?
Yes, trying to look ahead to the future. I think as we continue to have these type of environments, I think, as far as infectious diseases, that depending on, as for growth, potential for growth, because honestly, pandemic has really highlighted the fact that it's just, we are stretched very, very thin. I mean, obviously, if we had more staff, that would be easier, and I understand that, you know, that's one of the challenges that we always look at. But really looking ahead to the future, that if we need that, we wouldn't have to look at a new building, we would be able to, increase that size.
And as far as a shower, it just has shower written down there. You're gonna need at least 2 showers, right?
Yes.
Male and female
Yes.
section, whatever?
Yes, yes, and the shower was, because we do work, you know, the BNSF, exercise that's next month with emergency management and Burlington Northern is based on, the hazardous materials. And so we come on site for those type of things, and obviously they would have the decontamination site, but we also work with different things, you know, sometimes we go into homes that, with the TB and those, just infection control primarily and safety.
Got a clinic for immunization and a clinic for STD testing. Could that be combined into the same room?
I honestly, if possible, if we could combine the clinics for meds and the centrifuge with, it would be optimal to keep those rooms separate, because we may have, both of those folks in there at the same time, you know, as far as, coming through our office, and it makes it easier. Those are 2 different areas. I mean, one's coming for immunizations, for clinic for immunizations, and the other person, we would be drawing blood on and centrifuging the blood. So if we could combine that, STD room, with the clinic for the med, or for the centrifuge, and then, combining the meds with the clinic for the immunization. That would probably be, you know, combine those 2 instead.
I guess the one is the, we'll obviously be designing that. If we've got 5 nurses now, and you got 10 nurses office with room for double occupancy, that would be 4 times as many nurses which we have now.
Would you find with rooms at
just, we're mentioning, we're gonna end up talking to eventually somebody that's gonna design this, engineer this, an architect, that we talk about a layout and how much room you need for double occupancy, whether you could get maybe call it.
I didn't want to interrupt here, but I'd like to add one of the rooms to that if I could, and that would be a network closet for my switches, network jacks, access points.
A network closet?
Network, you know, just somewhere basically to put my stuff.
Could be in the shower room, couldn't it?
I think that's a good.
That's why he's the county engineer.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
Water cool.
Oh, shoot. And what about the business and administrator office? Is that something that,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
the business office and the administrator office, what's the difference and what's the?
So we have a business office person who does the financials, and then, that's a separate position from me.
Okay, this is your personal office there, administrator office?
Yes. And Rodney just brought up a good point that we're gonna need some storage for cleaning chemicals and those type of things, the mop buckets and those.
Yeah, kinda like a mop sink and stuff for storage for
What do you call it? What do you want?
Maintenance storage.
Maintenance closet?
Yeah.
With
Probably
sink?
want that in the shower.
Mop sink.
Farmers don't like it when you put all those combustibles in a mechanical room, so. You kinda need your own little little closet. I mean, it don't have to be super big, just enough for a mop sink and some cleaning supplies, you know, depending on the building, kinda depends on how big a room
I think when you get your, what it, RFG is it?
RFP,
RFP?
request for
RFP,
proposal, or request for
RFQ.
qualification, either one, they're a little
RFQ.
different, but yeah.
RFQ, and I think these people are gonna have some ideas on some of this stuff, particularly where to put this and everything.
Yeah, I was just kind of brainstorming myself and thinking about kind of a process for this, and if you have like I don't know if it makes sense to have like a little committee or something just for
public health facility. Maybe you even go visit like a few, if there, I don't know if there's other places that have new ones, but, go look at a couple others and get some ideas.
Information that
Along
works.
with what you've got for your own list, but yeah, maybe go look and see what other people have, or how they set up. And then I don't know where the architect comes in, if they come in before and they kind of go through that with you, or if you go through that and then get them on board. But then, yeah, at some point though, then you get the RFQ. But I think it might make sense to have kind of a small group of people to kind of go through that
Terry, you might be able to
process.
send out on that base camp, counties that have, does anybody build a new public health facility in the last
Big renovation
5 or
or
10
something,
years, or
yeah.
renovated one? Then Krista could speak to those, and say, what would you do different if you were doing it today? Or
Right on.
how did it work?
And I know each county's probably got their own unique issues too, I
Because
would guess too. but-
I'm sure there's a number of counties with the same problems we have. But there's 99 counties, surely somebody's got a new public health facility or fairly new.
The other thing I was just thinking about too, this is kind of, I don't know where this goes in the process, but I know, like figuring out locations, I don't know if you've kind of mapped that out at all, but it might be good to develop that list of possible locations and renovations and like a pros and cons list. And again, that's where does that fit in that whole, all the
Yeah,
steps, but something else to think about.
We will need
I suppose, yeah.
a location before we get too deep in this. But our next step will be, I think Mike was working on an RFQ
okay.
to send out to potential architect engineers.
I'll talk, I'm actually gonna meet with him at 11 o'clock, so I'll ask him about it.
And the COVID mobile, used to be the McGruff that they gave, which we painted. And
Take a bite out of COVID. Couldn't help myself.
I don't think you're supposed to take a bite.
I don't think you're supposed to either.
That totally should have been written on that.
Keep him away from the bus.
Have McGruff on there with the face mask on there.
Yeah,
too.
there you go.
Didn't Winnebago give you some money to help with that, clean that?
No, but the response grant for COVID
Yeah.
has paid for some of that.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were not able to purchase a new COVID mobile, but we were
Yeah.
able to renovate or rent. And so they helped us with some of the renovations.
We ought to send a picture of that up to Winnebago and
Oh. It's a good idea.
tell them we're using this.
Have we
If they
heard
would
any?
like to donate to our cause,
Oh, that's a great idea.
this is an antique we're driving.
Maybe you can have a before and after picture when it was McGruff and now it's the COVID mobile.
Yeah.
So.
That's what, 1980 or something like that?
1985, I think.
85?
And private registration is so that you've got a room to walk into, and so you don't have to discuss whatever problems
Yes.
you have
Absolutely.
in front of everybody in the waiting room.
Now, would your drop-off window or drawer for samples, would you have that like in the same area as what your secretary is?
No, probably we would have that in, if we have a bay for a drive-through clinic, we would put it there, drive-through bay for vaccine. So what we're doing, like with what we did with the auditorium, we set up the tents and people drove underneath. So if we had one of those canopies that people could drive through and we could give the vaccine. Now, the drive-through window is very similar to like a drive up at the bank. What's happening is we have people that come and get samples from us for COVID testing right now. And usually they're coming because they're not feeling well. And so we don't want them in our waiting room or expose our staff. So if we had one of those windows, we could just pass the test out and receive the test the same way without having an actual contact. So that's kind of what we're thinking. Again, that would prevent having to make any contact with people who are ill, and preventing, that mitigation, preventing that spread.
That's why I didn't know if that window or that bank teller thing would be in the same area as what the secretary is, so that somebody that's there, so that somebody came in, they'd be dropping it off.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know how the layout would be, but that might not be a bad idea as to where it's sitting, I guess, I don't know. You know, depending if we could make the bay next to,
You just don't
because the
want it
secretary's
off
also.
somewhere where
No.
nobody is there,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, at least the secretary would be there majority of the time, and at least if somebody came up with a sample or test kit or whatever.
Or maybe we could do like a bell or something like we do at the pharmacies, lots of times people push the button. Because I don't know how, and I think that's a good idea, I don't know how the layout would be, because the secretary, the person that registers people is the same person, so I don't know if that would, you know, layout wise, but yeah, that's a good idea.
Is the secretary sign-in area and the private registration sort of the same thing?
Well, and so, lots of times they'll come in and they'll just grab their number, so that, you know, and they may have a question or something, but I think it could kind of be the same thing, as long as we have an alcove, but be able to see people come through the door. So the secretary ordinarily would watch who's walking through the door, but when they come to the window and say they want this kind of testing or that kind of testing, we would like that to be in a private area, because right now, if they say that, everyone in the waiting room hears what they say. So we try very hard not to have people say that, we put out pieces of paper so they write that, but generally, they will come to the window and say what they need.
I understand on your different, clinic rooms that you want, having a sink and everything there, but a sink in each office, can you explain why we need a sink in each office?
Well, I think, you know, again, this was a wish list of what would potentially be the best, so if I was looking at the best scenarios for everything. And so honestly, this is infection control, for our nurses to be able to wash their hands after each encounter. If they have someone that comes into their office, they're working with them, then there's hand washing, we don't have to worry about them touching door handles and those kind of things. You know, nurses always wash their hands anytime that we meet with anybody, and so, you know, the goal definitely would be infection control. Again, that's a wish list, we could make do with one, but, I mean, infection control would be the reason for that. Preventing from spreading anything from room to room or person to person. And then the closets for the door, for their coats or.
For their personal stuff, I agree with that, with the code.
Yeah.
Just sink is what.
And again, we, you know, I think in the hallway, or, you know, we could, if that was one of those things that was not possible, I mean, ultimately, or optimal would be to have a sink in each room just for that infection control.
I think if we can swing it and we can afford it, we ought to have a sink just for, even if it's, doesn't go any further than washing hands, cleaning up something that, you know. Yeah, you need that in every room, I think that's it. I mean, that's just me personally.
And it's just one of those little sinks, not
Yeah.
big.
Yeah, just like a doctor's office, you know,
My doctor's got one about like my desk here.
Does he?
Yeah, I get up. and put
My
feet
doctor's,
in.
I think, a little tiny one. A little small.
Got a little seat there, I put my feet in there.
But he won't tell you what his doctor is, I mean, it's special.
Special. Krista?
Yes.
We appreciate the time you spent on this. This is going to be a drawn-out process of some sort, but I think we're underway, and I think we have plans, and at least we know where we're going from here, and the way to get there, so. You guys don't have anything else? No. We'll thank Krista again.
Thanks, Krista.
Thank you.
I want to tell you, I'm dedicated to get this done. It's needed.
Thank you.
Dan, as long as you're here, you've done a great job over the last 18 months, so thank you for that.
Hey, Krista, just, this is, I know this is over, but I just want to ask you real quick. Do we have any nibblers on the old building once we get out of there?
To be mad?
Do we have any ways of reusing that building, or anybody that's possibly interested, the water company or anybody? I mean, you know,
Storage,
Yeah.
that'd be about the only thing to be good for,
I was
storage.
just curious if maybe anybody had said something to you about, hey, we could use that building, somebody close by. Just
Got a lot of files